it's weird, we were talking about shooting on location, and then you go make a film. I shoot in LA for the first time, and so many people. I've never gotten to work with that many of the same people. So when you can, it's like always a better experience. I feel like it's just a better experience for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you know what to expect, you already know what to work like, and also like the formalities can go away a little bit.
Yep.
You can kind of just get to the point more. You know, you don't have to deal with. You're not like everyone's always really, I think, in a good way, sensitive of each other. But then if you've worked together enough, you can just be like, oh, forget that, and let's just get the work done. You know?
Yeah. First, what's interesting is easier with practice and. COG, you wrote.
Yeah.
And then Stanford Prison Experiment, you did not write.
Yeah, it was this script that had been around town for a long time. Had almost gotten made many times to different capacities. But it was a script that everyone loved, and it just kind of never had gone away. And through like a series of circumstances, you know, one of these other weird things, kind of like showing up at a book reading. Like it was like a producer had the rights to the script, and his wife was friends with a girl that was dating a guy who was in my first film. You know, it was like one of those weird things. All the dots connected. I got to read the script, and I really, it was one of those rare things where you read someone else's script and you go, oh, I think I know what to do with this. And they had done a really good job of taking this true story. You know, it's early 70s, and it's a true story about this professor who took all these students and set up this social experiment about the roles of guards and prisoners, and what was supposed to be like a 2-week experiment, you know, went bad very quickly. And what was great about the script was that it took it's one of those stories you don't have to embellish much. And what was exciting to me about the script was that they stayed really true. There were chunks of dialogue that were exactly the same from the tapes, and you could go and watch the footage.
He recorded it. Sorry, the professor recorded.
The experiment had been recorded. So, but it was also this tricky balance of like, well, wait, why are you gonna make to me, it's always like, wait, why are you gonna make a movie out of this? If you can make a documentary, why are you gonna make a movie? But so I went and started watching all the stuff on Stanford, and I felt that there hadn't been anything yet that had captured the more emotional content of what had happened, and the emotional fragility of what these kids went through, and sort of the intensity of it, I think, is something that we'd only, until hopefully this film, had been able to imagine, as opposed to actually sort of make it more experiential. And so, so that motivated me a lot, and I was able to then work with the writer and kind of go, you know, I think as a director, always has to get their fingerprints on it somehow, but I was able to work with him and sort of turn the script into that direction, but also turn the script into something that could be made, like I learned from my last film, could be made a little bit more cheaply. They'd been trying to make it, I think, on a bigger scale. And it was sort of like, this whole movie takes place in a hallway, smaller than the space we're talking in right now. It has 20 people in every scene, you know, so there is just no version of this movie that's like a bigger scale thing. And so I used that knowledge and sort of went into it with, well, wait, how cheaply can we make this, as opposed to how much money can we get to make this, you know? Maybe at some point in my career I'll get to say that, but right now it's more, what's the most economically responsible way? And if you can get the movie financed in an economically responsible way, great, do it. And if you can't, then that's why you gotta have other things in the pipeline.
Work within your limits.
Yeah, so this one came together faster, I think, with that knowledge, because we didn't go out there saying, oh, we should make this for as much as they were trying to before. We went out there and said, we actually want to make this for this much, and obviously can't say these numbers, but you know, much more affordably than I think you'd think when you see the film.
Talk me through being on production, being on set. You have a script that isn't technically yours this time. What were the challenges, if there were? What was it like? Or maybe it was actually very liberating to actually have someone else's script in your hand.
I think it was a little more liberating. I mean, I think I'm never precious with the scripts if they're mine or if they're someone else's, you know? I think once you get onto set, sometimes you're like, we need to follow this by the book, you know, with actors. But sometimes an actor's going like, wait, I think I want to do this thing. I mean, this shoot was weird. It was a longer script and we had less time to shoot it. So, I mean, it was, you know, it was a really fast shoot, so there just wasn't much time to not go by the book. But I think by then we'd worked on it and broken the whole thing open as much as we could, and had, you know, sort of a lot of what was done with the script wasn't about improving it because it was already great. It was just about honing it to try to make it in this way. It goes from one person puts a pen on a piece of paper to 100 people are waiting around a camera. You know, it's a very, very different world sometimes. But you're always striving to achieve that feeling when you first read it and thought, oh, I want to make this movie. You know, you're always sort of trying to strive for that. And I'm also not motivated as a writer. Like when I write, I'm motivated as a director. So I'm writing something that I get excited to direct.
Would you rather be a guard or a prisoner?
I don't think I have the qualities to be a guard.
Prisoner.
Prisoner, I guess.
Prisoner. Sounds like it would be a little less work.
Prisoner.
Why's that?
Nobody likes guards.
That's what when I first read it, you know, we talk about, oh, what was the thing you first read the script that you're trying to hold on, that you're excited about? And for me, it was like, oh, this is, you don't see indie movies with really big casts because it costs money. I mean, and that was really the #1 cost in this movie was cast. I don't mean that, oh, the actors were making money. I mean, everyone was being paid, you know, very modestly, as everyone was in the film. I mean it in that you don't see ensembles like this, you know, and it takes a lot to get 25 people on set every day. Nevertheless, this is in the 70s, so in hair, wigs and facial hair and costumes and all that stuff is really expensive. That's where most of the money of making this film went, and so. But I was excited, like, oh, we can get all these great guys, and everyone gets a moment to shine, and we can put together this, hopefully, this really good collaborative group of kids, and that ultimately ended up being the best part of the shoot, was having all these guys that are all so talented, and we're really excited to be there, and more so excited to be there together, and that was fun. You try to, you know, you always say, oh, you want this to be like The Outsiders, or something where you look back and you go, how did they put all these people? How are they all in one movie? And you can't engineer that, because you don't know who's going to be famous in 10, 15 years. But you can just sort of really try to look at try to make a combination of really experienced guys. There's some people, no one's fresh. You know, it was always like, I needed it to be people who had been in front of a camera before. And we weren't going to have the time for any training wheels, you know? But, you know, there's people there that have a lot of experience. Some people have only done TV, and this was their first films. Some people who were much younger, more, you know, it was a nice combination of it, and you hope, God, you hope all of them, of course, you hope continue to have a long career. But that cast, I love casting so much. So getting to be able to cast 25 leads was like the best experience.
Good evening, gentlemen. How about we make this one a night to remember?
This is all real. They won't let you go. They won't let us leave.
Those are not prisoners. Those are not subjects. Those are boys, and you are harming them.
Please! Let me out of here! I want out! I want out now!
You thought you were gonna get some playtime in the yard, boy? Is that what you thought this was gonna be?
I had no idea it would turn out this way.
It's funny because the movie's so intense. The stories everyone wants from it is like, oh, who got really mad at each other? Who became the experiment? You know, I worked really hard with those guys to never let it get to that place. You know, I spent a lot of time with everyone beforehand being like, this isn't going to be that set. I'm not that guy that's going to say, there's no time to do that kind of methodology on this. But you know, I kind of forgot how heavy it was as I was making the film until we premiered it. And when the movie premiered at Sundance, and people were like, oh, that movie was really hard to sit through, and I was like, it was? You know, because you remember you watch it and you're like, oh, that guy was so much fun afterwards. And after we shot that take, after he was crying, we were joking about it, never making fun of it, but like after the guy had to do those brutal push-ups, then we were like, you know, feeding him his food because his arms hurt so much. You know, you think of sort of the fun stuff around it, and I like that. I like I've been on both kinds of sets where like the mood of the set is the mood of the movie, and I've been on the sets where it's completely contradictory like it was here. And both are fine. I think it just depends on it's just about creating the environment for the actor that's the best. I strive, you hear about really relaxed sets, and some people describe my sets as relaxed. I don't never feel relaxed, so I've never been on I mean, I don't know, I guess it's about creating the facade that you're relaxed for everybody else, but really every day I'm like, really? There's not enough time to do more than 2 takes? Like, when is that going to change? I don't think that ever really changes. I think production is chaos. Yeah. And you know, there's the occasional people that have created this sort of mysticism around them, the Woody Allens or whatnot, of having these just sort of incredibly seamless moving sets, the Steven Spielbergs and stuff. But as far as I know, the way that I'm allowed to work within the restrictions that I have, there's just no way for it to ever be like that. You can only try to anticipate it as much as possible and be prepared as much, but so much of filmmaking is improvising too. Oh yeah. So you don't want to be too prepared. So it's just production is a losing battle, and you just have to embrace that it is, and then you roll with it, and then it's great. It's only when you're like, why isn't this going perfectly and smoothly, that then you get distraught.
Right. Well, and you talk about preparing. You edit your features, correct?
Yeah.
So talk us through that, because I noticed you had a very unique and I think pretty effective process, which is on set. You're already kind of not editing, but you're already kind of picking the best takes, and you're kind of already stringing together scenes. And
Stanford was the first time that because there were so many people in the scenes, there was more times where I was like, just shoot everything and I'll figure it out. Right. Some people, that's their style, to shoot everything, and you know. I try to achieve and this is more of the editor speaking, I guess, like that happy ground where it's like you have coverage so you can adjust the scene and make it work, let you change it later on, but you also have these really specific beats and moments and aesthetic. There's directors who do that so well, who combine their coverage, the De Palma thing is like coverage is, a terrible word, is like a bad word. And I agree with that to on an ideological level, but there's also a practicality level of just like, well, wait, you want to make sure you get that beat, because what if it's not clear yet to the audience? And what if it's not as clear right now to us as it might be? So maybe I need that insert or I need that thing. But for the sake of getting through like a 15-page day, yeah, it's better to say, I know I'm not going to need that. Right. I'm not going to need that piece. Right. And as much as I would like to have it just in case it just went out the window. But just in that I like the idea that all the steps of making a film, they don't happen one after another. They can all happen sort of on top of each other. I think that's usually the scenes I've been happiest with in my life, in my career, I mean the ones that I've made, the ones that I look back and I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted it to be like, are the ones that the editing informed the shooting, and the shooting informed the writing, and the writing informed the editing, and they all sort of worked hand in hand. And I think it'll just take time and working with people and becoming more comfortable with crew people that I get to keep on working with, for then that to be more of the shorthand that's then created, where you have that one brain mentality, but with just more people in tow.